Hello, my name is Tony. Norman J. Warren was a British director with a hard-on for cheap exploitation fare. From 1968 to 1987, he knocked out 9 low-budget pictures that over the years attracted a cult following and status. His focus centered on depictions of gratuitous sex, violence, horror, tackiness and schlock and awe, for the purposes of audience titillation, snapping up a fast buck in the process. Enviable qualities as far as I'm concerned. Back then, political correctness was just a twinkle in an unborn snowflake's victimized weeping eye, and even if it hadn't been, I get the impression that Warren wouldn't have given too much of a shit. Knowing that, who wouldn't like him already? His first feature film in '68 was Her Private Hell, described as Britain's first narrative sex movie. He quickly followed it up with a sex comedy Loving Feeling the same year, then slowly followed that one up with Satan's Slave in 1976, which was reminiscent of a mid-period Hammer second feature, only with more sex, nudity and sadism. In '77 he released Prey, which if nothing else had a novel premise. Herein a carnivorous male alien is scouting out Earth as a potential food supply. He hooks up with a lesbian couple. The themes of eating out and alternative sexuality are made abundant clear then, with the lesbians being vegetarians, natch. It's a cannibal, gay, alien, zombie, vampire sort of thing. Now that's something you don't see every day. Terror in 1978 was a giallo wannabe, taking cues or stealing them from the work of Dario Argento and others. It somehow found itself in the #1 spot at the box office in the UK for a whole week. How exactly is a mystery, but of all intents it's true. In 1979, Warren made Outer Touch, known as Spaced Out in the States, a science fiction sex comedy. Sticking with the sci-fi genre, it was his next film, Inseminoid in 1981, that for me represents the crowning achievement of his career, which is why I'm going to review it and explore just what makes it such a charming and delightful piece of feel-good family entertainment. And if you're buying that description, you either need to get real, get a brain, or both. After Inseminoid, Warren only made 2 more films. There was Gunpowder in 1986, a very obscure dirt-poor Bond rip-off featuring 2 lead characters called Gun and... Can you guess? Yeah, that's right, Powder. You could use a similar gimmick if you called the film Turkey Burger, or Dimbulb, or Donkey Raper, or Fuckwit. I'm Mr. Fuck and this is Mr. Wit. Together we are... His last effort was Bloody New Year in 1987, filmed in Barry Island, the exotic coastal mecca that is Wales' answer to Las Vegas. It went direct to home video. Warren found the making of Bloody New Year to be such a depressing and soul-destroying experience he gave up making films for the remainder of his life. Barry Island can have that sort of effect. Wander around for 5 minutes and the only things you won't want to give up on are strong alcohol and hard drugs. An opportune moment now to turn attention to Inseminoid. I know there's been a lot of vehement denial from Warren and almost everyone involved in the making of the film, but that doesn't alter one iota that it's a blatant, unashamed, solid gold-plated 24-carat alien ripoff. Whatever anyone says, whatever anyone tells you, no matter what strategies are employed to fool people into believing otherwise, it just fucking is. No doubt about it, matey. Call it a homage, call it inspired by, call it a 3-legged donkey with the face of Huey Green and fluorescent Easter eggs for balls. It's an alien ripoff. Now we've established that, let's see what we got. It was the future, only now it isn't, it's the past. However, back then it was the future. Making sense so far? Way off in deep space, a team of archaeologists and scientists are digging about in the ruins of an ancient civilization on a freezing cold planet. Hitting upon a cave system, they find wall markings and some pulsating crystals. There's a spontaneous explosion for no particular reason, which kills photographer Dean Dominic Jeffcott and leaves his companion Ricky David Baxt with a wound on his hand. Back at the base, the crystal samples infect Ricky's wound, and he goes round the twist. He runs riot, frenziedly beating people up with wild abandon, then runs outside back to the caves. On his journey of mental discovery, he throws Gail Rosalind Lloyd into a heap of scrap metal left carelessly lying around. With her foot trapped in a rupture in her environmental suit, bleeding oxygen, she desperately tries to amputate her own leg with what looks like a bargain basement hedge trimmer. Gary Stephen Grives offers encouragement.
I can't help you, sweetheart. It's up to you.
Bypass the thermostat, woman! Damn you, woman!
She fails and freezes to death with a frosty frozen face. Next, Ricky tries to sabotage the base airlock and thus kill everyone inside, but he's shot with a handy harpoon gun by Kate, Stephanie Beecham. There's a funeral and Ricky and Gail are buried next to each other in what looks like solid rock. Neat trick, and not a little insensitive considering the one caused the other's untimely death. Knowing that the caves are completely unstable and dangerous, Mitch, Trevor Thomas and Sandy, Judy Geeson, naturally go back there to get some more crystals for analysis. Enter a big bug-eyed alien who disembowels and decapitates Mitch and abducts Sandy. In a nightmarish sequence, the alien rapes a naked Sandy with a transparent tube filled with some gungy fluorescent green liquid. Not your average jackrabbit then. Next thing you know, Sandy's back at the base and 2 months pregnant. She's developed superhuman strength, can breathe in the toxic atmosphere outside, and spends the rest of the film running around screaming a lot, killing her colleagues starting with Barbara, Victoria Tennant, eating their flesh and drinking their blood. Finally, she gives birth to alien twins, then gets throttled to death by Base Commander Mark, Robin Clark. The alien twins chow down on the only other survivor, Sharon, Heather Wright. Then they turn their attention to Mark. Other cast members who buy the farm along the way are Holly, Jennifer Ashley, and medic Carl, Barry Houghton. A relief shuttle arrives and finds everything trashed and everyone dead. As they head back to wherever they came from, the alien twins are seen stowed away in a storage compartment on their vessel, and they ain't hungry for love. You wouldn't seriously apply the word good to anything Norman J. Warren ever directed. He made rubbish. There's no point in pussying around it, cheap, dumb, absurd, trashy, crack-a-barrel garbage. That's not necessarily a bad thing though, because some of it was gleefully and gloriously mad in the brain pan, and hypnotically entertaining as a result. If you want cinematic Brit trash with enough exploitational finger pop to tickle a fancy for low-rent thrills and spills, Warren was often on the money, and he had a sly way of slipping the odd moment of canny subversion into his work. Sometimes there's a little bit more going on than meets the eye, whether intentionally or not. The look of Inseminoid is cheap. The sets and props seemingly constructed and sourced from an urban garden centre on its last legs before getting torched for the insurance, and a fire sale of the discarded materials from Jerry Anderson's Space 1999, with perhaps a hint of B&Q sponsorship thrown in. The sound design isn't any great shakes either. It's in and out like a fiddler's elbow, up and down like a sex fiend and a drug-fueled nymphomaniac having joint convulsions on a trampette. Some of it is just blaring incoherence. What the fuck was that? The alien and the alien babies are badly animated, poorly moulded chunks of cobbled together plastic, resembling the offspring of Jabba the Hutt and a mutant gecko. Depending on your state of mind, you will either laugh or cry. The score, a droning, cheesy and sparse electronic offering with some progressive rock stylings, comes courtesy of John Scott, a prolific movie composer who would later go on to provide music for Hugh Hudson's Tarzan reimagining Greystoke, the very picturesque The Shooting Party, and Mike Hodges' undervalued Black Rainbow. It ain't half bad as it happens, and was released on vinyl. Cinematography is undertaken by John Metcalf, better known as director of music videos for the likes of Eric Clapton, The Alarm and David Bowie. The ultra-stylized China Girl was one of his. He keeps things fuzzy and murky with eerie colour saturation to camouflage the crappiness of the sets and enhance the ominous atmosphere outside of the base, filming in a real cave complex in Kent. Script and dialogue is by husband and wife team Nick and Gloria Maley, whose day jobs were as pawn shop special visual effects providers. It's just as clunking, trashy and illiterate as you might expect. They wrote it as a showcase for their special effects creations, the equivalent of sewing tinsel onto a dog turd and showcasing it through a malfunctioning camera obscura. Then there's the acting. Two no-talent American headliners, Robin Clark and Jennifer Ashley, are utterly terrible. I don't know who they are or where they came from, but they should have been left there. They're so bad they would have been rejected for roles as shepherds or background villagers or even farmyard animals in a school nativity play by 4-year-olds. So staggeringly atrocious they make the remaining cast of mostly anonymous British bit-parters seem like something approaching the realm of competency, and considering how lousy they mostly are, that's some bloody achievement. The only positive points cast-wise are thus: Judy Geeson gives an emotionally committed and enthusiastic performance in a thankless role that seems expressly designed to demean any actress who took it on. She's the best thing in it and avoids caricature or presenting as unintentionally comic. Stephanie Beacham, a veteran of the schlock horror school of filmmaking, adds a much-needed touch of detached professionalism. And if you think for once I'm going to avoid making observations that could be interpreted as blatantly sexist, you'd be wide of the mark, because all the women are at least physically appealing and attractive to look upon. Geeson, Tennant and Beacham stand out. I know, I'm such a pig. How is it like Alien? Let me count the ways. 1. There's an alien in it. 2. It's set in deep space. 3. There are underground caverns hiding something nasty. 4. Head-mounted and handheld flashlight beams scything through the subterranean gloom. 5. There's an alien impregnation. 6. A mess hall scene reminiscent of when John Hurt spazzes out. Here, it's Ricky who flips his wig. 7. Protagonist struggling in isolation. 8. Token black guy a la Yaphet Kotto. This time, Trevor Thomas. 9. Token black guy killed early on, par for the course. 10. Stephanie Beacham and Judy Geeson do a Ripley, white t-shirts and knickers combo. 11. Militaristic corporate feature background. Enough to be going on with? As well as Alien, Inseminoid draws on 1977's Demon Seed, in which an artificially intelligent computer artificially inseminates Julie Christie. What it fails to emulate from Alien is sharp, effective, tight-knit characterization. There are too many bodies in Inseminoid, living and dead. 12 of them, I think. They have no backstory, no history, no personalities. And you'll find it difficult to get a fix on who they are or what they do, and very likely you won't care much either. On the plus side of things, there's plenty of people to violently kill, but as you'll not be emotionally invested in any of them, you won't mind them getting whacked. Now, believe it or not, Inseminoid sparked some academic study and analysis. Oh yes, someone saw intellectual value in it. Defies conventional belief, I know, but they did. Film historian Peter Wright interpreted Sandy's transformation as, and I quote, a direct manifestation of masculine anxiety regarding female reproductive capacity. And he went on to discuss the film's themes of the conflict between male and female gender roles, pregnancy, new motherhood, and Inverness. Oh, sorry, that should be otherness, probably. Whilst I can see where he's coming from, and I can agree that those elements are in there, I feel they're accidental rather than intentional, simply because the script lacks the intelligence, insight and depth for it to be otherwise. Certain factors support Wright's theories. The female team members are subjected to compulsory birth control injections, which is a bit draconian and sexist, I think. There seems to be an assumption that they will be so sexually attracted to the gorgeous male members of the team and, unable to control themselves and their wanton carnal desires, randomly fuck with them. Those poor men don't deserve the added burden of an unwanted pregnancy in space, and as birth control is a woman's responsibility anyway, let's jab them all with an intramuscular version of the pill, save them the trouble. That said, the only members of the crew who seem to be hooking up are Sandy and Mark. Sandy seems to like sex, so what a coincidence that she's the one chosen to be raped and impregnated by the alien, yeah? As she's clearly the least capable of controlling her urges, the dirty little minx. The contraceptive is no protection against alien insemination and an alarmingly accelerated pregnancy. Interesting to note that when Sandy is known to be pregnant and starts killing, cannibalizing and attacking people, retaliation often comes in the form of a kick or knee or foot stomp to a swollen belly. What with her superhuman strength, it's the only thing that seems to hurt her. Does this make reference to male resentment or latent envy towards female pregnancy, or a repressed male urge to put a stop to gestation? Bit too fucking Freudian for me, folks. I'm not getting into this any further. Fuck it. Yeah, fuck it. Inseminoid has its fair share of gory and stomach-churning moments. The alien rape is rendered like a bizarre dream, a garish nightmare that turns out to be all too real. The fights, confrontations, deaths are mechanical and slow, and I'm thinking this is due to budget restrictions extending to a lack of stand-ins and professional stunt personnel, meaning the actors were required to do the physical stuff themselves. In taking care not to actually belt people or slam their faces into the scenery, the choreography pulls punches all over the place and it looks markedly fake and feeble. Papering over this with plenty of fake blood and guts doesn't quite cut it. Shaw Brothers, or Run Shaw to be precise, put up half the budget and got a presenter's credit for the investment. Also got a B-movie that looks like a B-movie but got an A-movie release. In the US it was titled Horror Planet and got a lot of cuts, especially for the home entertainment market. In the UK it did fine for a while, then fell foul of the video nasty Puritans, so it was hard to get hold of for years. These days you can find it as a standalone Blu-ray and it's as complete a cut as you'll see. I've spotted it retailing for 10 quid online. Alternatively, if you've got money to throw around, it's out there as part of a Norman J. Warren deluxe limited edition box set called Bloody Terror. For about 120 notes, you also get Satan's Slave, Prey, Terror and Bloody New Year. Available for 90 quid second hand on eBay. Still a bit of a pricey option as far as I'm concerned. I said earlier it's the best film in Warren's portfolio, and I stand by that. It couldn't care less for anyone's delicate sensibilities, and is as politically correct as a Klan convention in a synagogue full of black Jews. It amuses the hell out of me, and I've always enjoyed it, but that's me, and I suspect that isn't much of a recommendation overall. I would suggest if you're attracted to B-movie Brit junk sci-fi that is shamelessly exploitational and doesn't give a good damn who it offends or repulses or why or how, or even if you're merely curious about such things, Inseminoid might be the prime example you've been looking for. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'm grateful for it, and would be even more appreciative if you could find the time to hit like or don't like, leave a comment, or risk subscribing to the channel. There's always Patreon for you charitable rich kids or optimistic philanthropists who might get a warm, tingly kick out of seeing new content ahead of the curve, because that's where it reveals itself first these days. Link in description. I'll be back with more just as soon as time and life permits. Farewell for now, pilgrims.